asked a lot about how we got started homesteading and what resources we would suggest to someone who's kind of looking to get into this homesteading lifestyle. So we're going to share with you a little bit about the things that have been most helpful and impactful for us to get us to kind of where we are today.
So if you're looking for like a magic formula of homesteading or something like that, this isn't going to be that video. Like we're not just going to say watch these 5 videos, read these 5 books, and then you're there and you're a homesteader. That doesn't exist as far as we're concerned. But we are going to just talk more kind of big picture, weave our story into kind of how we got to where we are today. And really that started with thinking of our life more holistically and kind of thinking through the big picture, like vision and values of our lives and where we want it to be.
Yeah, so probably this was started kind of back in, this journey started back almost even in like 2011, 2012. But by like 2015, 2016, we were really kind of honed into this lifestyle of we were shopping locally, right? We were shopping at farmers markets, supporting local farmers, doing a lot of like farm tours and things like that. So this whole kind of food culture, local food was very much immersed in our daily lives. And at this point, we really kind of started to just dive in. And so we were listening to a lot of podcasts on kind of this sustainability and regenerative agriculture and all of these things to kind of really help us form this vision and values for our life. And that was really changing us and causing us to have kind of a lot of these big picture conversations about what's important and what do we want our life to look like. And kind of simultaneously, we've always been big budgeters. So keeping a budget has always been part of our marriage and something that's been important to us. But around this time, we also just kind of started exposing ourselves, listening to kind of these more almost radical stories. We started listening to this podcast called Radical Personal Finance, and this was back in like 2016 or so. So I don't know what he talks about these days, but back in 2016, he had a lot of these podcasts where he would interview just kind of these radical people living radical lives where maybe they were living off the land on $20,000 and, just having living in an RV and spending hardly any money and kind of just living in these radical ways. And it really kind of made us pause and think about even our pretty well thought through budget. Like, wow, are these things that we're spending our money on really necessary? And where can we maybe make just what choices were we making, and is there anything that based on kind of our values needed to be adjusted? And so we were just having a lot of these more bigger picture conversations about values, about finances, and just about what we wanted our life to look like.
Yeah, it was really like sort of this shift from like conventional to unconventional thinking in a lot of ways. And yeah, we were having those big picture conversations, just asking why a lot. Like why do we do what we do? And so as we were kind of reshaping those values, we knew we needed to move from kind of this more like theoretical state that our life was in to more practical and doing. Like you can only live in the theoretical for so long before you just start feeling like you're spinning your wheels. And so we knew we wanted to be doing.
Sorry, there was a mosquito.
We wanted to be doing with our lives and actually start seeing this kind of reproduce itself in some physical ways. And so we just started looking for kind of what was out there, if there's like local opportunities or communities or groups that we could join. And we found this Farm Beginnings program in our area. It was there's this like Farm Beginnings Collaborative, and we'll include a link below with a website that could show you these programs and kind of where they're where they're located around the country. But we did it. We joined this upcoming class. They're like a year-long course, and we found that to be just like the perfect fit for us to kind of get kind of immersed into more of the local like farm and food scene in a way that was really practical for us and hands-on, and you got exposed to just a lot of different local farms and farming methods and techniques, but also like some more of the business end of things and like learning about farm enterprises. And in the end, you kind of end up with almost like a full farm plan or like a business plan even for what you want to accomplish, and setting goals and kind of putting some practical steps to achieve those goals together. That was just the perfect fit for us. And what was cool was that there's a ton of other people in the class too that are like-minded and wrestling with a lot of these same topics and questions and things like that. And so we just found a lot of really neat community there, met a lot of people that were kind of helpful and transformative in this whole journey for us.
And alongside, like, one of the components of that class, they talk about big picture stuff like we had already been learning, but it really gives you kind of some more practical, like, making a business plan, bringing in tons of speakers, talking about all sorts of different topics, from how-to and different enterprises, to even then by the end you get paired up with a farm mentor that you can actually even develop this relationship with and just get to know them and ask questions just as a resource locally as part of the class. And that was also really, really helpful. So then kind of moving from kind of this big picture, we took this class, and then really, I would say one of the best pieces of advice I could give, or the thing that was the most helpful for us, is to just get out there and do it. So you could read all the books there are, you can listen to all the podcasts, watch all the YouTube videos, do all of the things, but the most helpful and practical thing for us was to just get out there and do it. And so at this time we had 1/3 of an acre in the suburbs, and we just went for it, and we got backyard chickens, and we started a large garden in our yard. We even got a backyard, a couple hives of bees. And so we just started going for it and doing these things. And we had not read or researched, to death everything about these topics. We just started doing them. And then as needs arose and as things came up, like, we troubleshooted and we learned and we asked questions. And when our chicken got sick, we researched to death, like the dickens, how to save her and how to help her, and these things. And so we just learned as we went. And I would say that was way more helpful than I think any resource or book or anything like that could have been, is just actually going out and doing it.
Yeah, it was just starting small, start where you're at, and just build from there. And try things, and you're gonna fail along the way, and that's okay. We had plenty of those times. But you learn as you go, and you figure things out. You develop the right community and connections along the way of people to ask, and find mentors and friends and people to help you along the way.
And even up to bigger things, like, we obviously started with like chickens and gardens and things like that, but even before getting our family milk cow, like we had really zero experience with ever milking anything in our lives. We've never had cows before. We've never even had goats or sheep or any smaller ruminants, and so that was totally new. But we spent a couple weeks looking into it before we got her, but we did not, we just went for it, and it's worked out great. Like, we've asked the questions that we've needed and done the research that we needed to do to make sure, she was safe and had what she needed, and we knew what we were doing, and, that we were able to take care of her. But in a lot of ways, we just learned as we went, and kind of, learned each other and figured each other out, and it's been great. Like, we've loved that.
Yeah. If you just like anything, like, before you have kids and become a parent, like, if you wait till you feel like you're ready for that, you're never going to get there, right? Because no one's just ready, knows everything there is to know about parenting. There's no owner's
manual with getting your child, home from the hospital.
It's on the job training, and you learn as you go. And same thing with homesteading and raising animals and gardening and things in the kitchen and canning and preserving. Like, we just kind of had this mentality of, like, we're just going to try things and start small, one thing at a time, do what's manageable, and eventually you'll get there and you'll figure it out. And we just kind of went with that process.
Yeah, but along the way there has been some helpful resources, some helpful books. So we'll just share a few of kind of the things that have stuck out the most to us.
Yeah, and really you have to think through, like, what type of learner you are. For us, like, we're not the type of people that are just going to sit down and read like a how-to manual or something like that. But there have been some more books, some like more bigger picture philosophical type books that have been really helpful to us. One of those books is this one called Letters to a Young Farmer. So it's actually a compilation of letters by kind of these, I don't know, higher profile, more influential people in the food and farming space. And just like it sounds, letters to a young farmer. And so they're inspirational. They're packed full of like stories and just things to really kind of light a fire under you and give you the motivation. And for us, we just sat down and read like one chapter an evening when we had time together and just read out loud. And it was like by the end of it, like you're fired up, you're ready to go. It's a really awesome, inspiring book.
For me, one of the ones that's been the most helpful and inspiring is the Prairie Homestead Cookbook by Jill Winger. So Jill Winger of the Prairie Homestead was one of the first people that I found probably back in like 2016, 2017, who was going after this homestead life and really living it out and sharing about it. And I remember coming across her, I think, Instagram page and being like, yes, like this is what I want to be doing. You know, this is it and stuff. So her book is really helpful. It has, as opposed to most cookbooks, which drive me nuts, you know, that are like, oh, use these pre-packaged, you know, chicken breasts and make this thing. You know, it's full of recipes that homesteaders would make with things that you grow or buy from your farmer. And even she has a section on like having a home dairy and making cheeses and just some really unique things that I found really inspirational and helpful. And this is just a cookbook that I go back to again and again. But there's also just a lot of just helpful information, just really informative. Jill also has a great podcast called the Old Fashioned on Purpose podcast. That's still one of my favorites to listen to, you know, as I'm in the garden or just doing things around the farm. So Old Fashioned on Purpose, The Prairie Homestead, Jill Winger.
Two more books, just to go over real quick, are these are more on like the growing, gardening end of things. But the first one is The Resilient Gardener by Carol Deppe. And this one really talks about more like storage crops and growing things like potatoes and squash and corn and beans and having those as kind of a source of food all year round. And that was a big shift for us in homesteading, was to go from kind of more like conventional grocery store eating to seasonal eating and living off the land. And this book was really helpful, informative in kind of just how to do that, because we just didn't have a framework for like growing those types of things. And so we really enjoyed that book, The Resilient Gardener. And then the other one is The Market Gardener by J.M. Fortier, and this is sort of like the go-to book for market gardeners. And we don't have a market garden, but one of the things I found really helpful about it was just how to think of your farm in kind of this like systematic approach, to do things efficiently and to have the right tools on hand and the right resources and just kind of planning and executing and things like that. So it really helps you just think through how to, I don't know, manage your land and your time really well so that you can work in an efficient manner. Yeah, so those were just a couple of the like books and, you know, resources we found helpful in just getting us going as homesteaders. But really, there's such like a vast world of resources and information out there when you think of like blogs, YouTube channels, books, documentaries, all podcasts, all those sorts of things. And so our encouragement is to just find like one or two of those things, right? You could like so easily get overwhelmed by how, you know, all the information out there. Just find one or two resources that you really resonate with, that you find like super helpful and are kind of your go-to, and stick with those. And then like one of our biggest pieces of advice is to move from being a consumer to a doer, because it's easy to get stuck in that consumption stage where you're just intaking all this information, but you're never actually like implementing it and going out and doing it. And so don't get bogged down in all the information, you know, stick with a couple good resources and then go out and take it and apply it and do it. And that's really like, that's what's going to get you there.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bit about our journey and the things that have been most impactful for us, but we would love to hear from you if there has been resources or things that you have found super helpful kind of along your homesteading journey. Yeah, we'd love to hear. So tell us in the comments below, and even just so we can share with one another kind of more of those resources. So thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.